All right, guys, my name is Salim Juma, your host of the Colored Conservatives. Welcome back to a special show with Hollywood actress Mindy Robinson, who is actually a Trump supporter in liberal Hollywood, or should I say leftist Hollywood these days. And it's a pleasure to have her with her. She's going to be going over a few things that happened at CPAC with us, as well as discussing conservative censorship online. So it should be really, really exciting, folks. Let's jump right into it. Mindy, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your acting background, who you are, and then, of course, your politics?
I'm an actor. I do a lot of independent film. Obviously, there's a lot of nepotism. When it comes to leftists in Hollywood, they're very powerful. And if you don't want to be their mouthpiece, they're not going to use you. You're not going to do kind of stuff. But I keep busy. I do a lot of pro-veteran films. I do a lot of conservative content. And then I get to do fun stuff. So there are a lot of people that just don't care. I mean, you could not put me in your movie, but you're missing, a whole different kind of audience. So, and obviously, right. I've always been a conservative, and I've always been vocal about it. And man, I think I spend just as much time doing politics these days as I do doing funny movies.
I can definitely agree with that. I mean, I follow you on Twitter, so I see all the stuff that you post and everything like that. I think I've definitely seen you post some of the movies that you've done, so it's a lot of family friendly. Not necessarily,
but
well, not necessarily always family friendly, but so I swear I saw you do like a Christmas movie or something, and it seemed.
I did a really cool Christmas movie with John Schneider. It's very autobiographical. It's got the General Lee in it. We kind of talk, we touch on the fact that cancel culture doesn't like it. I mean, he's a car, and it's just fun. It's done in the style of an old Dukes of Hazzard episode. There's no swearing, and it's a touching movie. Like, you watch it, you're like, oh, and it's set in Louisiana, so it's something completely different and apart, I think, from the average film. And it's just something nice to sit down with the family for once,
Yeah, and unlike most movies these days, which you can't watch with your grandma. I remember Charlie's. Like, I was in the car with my grandparents. We had one of those minivans with the DVD player back. This was about like 2007, 2008. And, Charlie's Angels Full Throttle comes on, and it's that stripper scene. And my grandmother's in the car, and I'm like, dude, oh my God, this is so awkward. But yeah, no, and that's actually really cool. I was an actor myself. I did a lot of commercials, and then like modeling, not like runway and stuff.
Sexy.
But I wasn't always this ugly, man. There was a time I was actually a reasonably attractive person, but I actually won a pageant.
This is getting better. I want pictures of this. If you don't send me pictures of this afterwards, I don't think we can talk again.
I absolutely will. I'll post something for my fans. Actually, both of our fans online too. I won the Mr. Washington State title back in 2017. But unfortunately, the cancel culture for conservatives really came for me too. I think the first thing I posted was a defense of college Republicans on UW's campus who were assaulted by people, and people were questioning even that. This was before I was a conservative. I was just like, hey, maybe people shouldn't be attacked for their political opinions. And they're like, excuse me, are you a Republican? Well, no, but I just think that, okay, guys. Well, so, yeah, let's jump right into it. What the hell happened at CPAC? And what's your side of the story?
It was just an odd thing. I guess the guy actually told the cops that he tried to like start something the day before, but it was just like a non-issue for me. The whole thing was a non-incident. I guess he'd run up, called me ugly, ran off. We were laughing. We're like, I guess that's like Twitter in real life. But the next night, he got a lot more aggressive, a lot more nasty. I felt something hard hit my rear, and I'd heard he had bragged that he grabbed my ass. So that was me piecing that together. And, he just called me by name. He's like, you ugly whore, blah, blah, blah. And I just remember being like in shock. Like, what the? Like, you can't just do that. So I might have put him in a headlock. And I was really not taking it to a dark place. I didn't choke him out. I didn't let him drop or something like that. I just like, you can't do that. Here's your lesson. I'll go. And then his sister had to jump into it. And she's like, you ever see just crazy eyes? You're like, this isn't good. So you're like, dude, don't do it. She did it. So that happened. But I definitely feel set up. I've heard people were behind them, egging them on and stuff like that. And it just didn't go the way they wanted. Sorry. And it was a non-incident. There's no universe. I'm not from the people that call cops on something stupid like that. Especially, you know what I mean? Because especially if you're going to be arguing back and forth, who's at fault, it's a bunch of paperwork, just grow up.
It's bullshit.
These are it's a weird crowd, and I swear I just tried to like call truce on it before. I'm like, look, don't mess with me. I don't care. I don't agree with what you guys say, but that's your right to say it. I defend Antifa's right to hate me too, as long as it's, not a credible threat or something or a lie or something, Everyone has the right to freedom of speech. It's not just me. It's one thing I wish other people would get in their heads. And that means sometimes the fringe right, and it means the left. Freedom of speech is freedom of speech. So I thought we kind of made a truce, and I haven't quite got the backlash, thankfully. I thought he kind of acted like a punk, honestly. It's a punk move to start. I'm 110 pounds. I don't know what they were thinking. Like, I would just cry or, cry about it or whatever they were thinking. But
well, I'm pretty sure I'm not sure if he's your boyfriend or he's your husband.
No,
but
I don't talk about him, about my politics. I don't mix that up. So
Okay, fair enough. But this bar, so I don't know the background of the story.
It was a nice bar. I mean, everyone was pleasant. I had a good time other than that. And it was a great place. And you should be able to mix and mingle. And if you're going to bring beef from Twitter to people, it's one of the things I was telling the officers. I'm like, I don't know who he is, but he knows my first and last name. And he obviously has a very deep hatred for me. What do I do with that? You know what I mean? I definitely feel set up. They're trying to video it. They're trying to make a big deal of it. And it's just like, guys, we're not 15. We're adults. You can't just call the cops because of something. They have to fill out paperwork and do stuff. And they were like, oh, she got arrested. I went in an Uber, okay?
Yeah.
Oh, my God, the hysterics. It's like 10-year-old girls.
As far as the background, though, the thing that I'm kind of wondering is because from what I understand is this was after CPAC, so you were out. There was a bunch of conservatives at the bar, but was it more of like the America First Groyper crowd at that particular bar, or was it TPUSA people?
I don't know. I don't know what they look like. You know what I mean? I mean, to me, they're people. I recognize my peers. I recognize my friends on Twitter that I correspond with, but the people in between, and people were nice. They came up, asked pictures. There were a couple of interesting conversations that were not what I wanted to hear. I thought they were like super racist, but I'm like, look, that's you're right to think that, you're not posing it on me. Be a weirdo, go ahead. Obviously I disagreed with them, but everything was pretty. I thought they were really decent to me. They could have been worse. They could have. I mean, we see like what had happened on Twitter. They were actually pretty respectable in person, except the one asshole. So the incest twins, but it's just everyone. I thought they were nice, and I thought we played fair. And I think, even if conservatives disagree, we should be able to get along better than the left does. That's supposed what the left does. The left decides it's going to do ad hominem attacks and put your hands on. It's just, I think we're better than that. So even if you disagree with them, you should be able to talk to them. So I was having a good time at the bar. It was a great time, and I up until that, and then the next night, like, you can come back. I'm good. I'm just gonna, because I just don't trust that guy. He was pretty crazy. So
I'm actually in complete agreement with you as far as factional infighting with the right. I mean, my only enemy is the far left, and being in Seattle and in Portland, like, we deal with Antifa out here. I've done interviews with conservatives, and they just don't get it. Like, they see our videos and they're just like, dude, is this like a setup? Like, were they actors or something? Did you hire somebody off Craigslist? Because it's just nuts, dude. Like, people are running around trying to attack you with brass knuckles and like for what? Giving out free hugs. So let me ask you, what do you think of the right-wing infighting in general, especially the Groyper War? And then also, to segue more into that, well, why don't we get your background on like the Groyper War and the right-wing infighting that's kind of happening right now in general?
I think it started, it might have been a couple of, like, I believe my initial idea, and I thought it was fair, was, look, I don't agree with you guys, but that's your right to say it. I defend Antifa's right to say what they want to. But for some reason it got ugly, and then there's this one girl, she said she tried to kill herself. They were harassing her all week. I'm like, guys, like, what the hell? I'm not saying you did it, and like, no one can make someone do that, but you're certainly not helping. And if you think someone's off, just take a break. What are we really doing here? And I'm not ashamed to call out conservatives. I don't think it's about getting along. I will not look past a MAGA person if they're ripping off people, if they're holding GoFundMes that aren't real, if they're holding fake sweepstakes like Bill Pulte, or if you're getting paid by him to promote him.
Or what's his name? Bill Mitchell. I think you've called out Bill Mitchell too, right?
Oh, yeah. He had that fake GoFundMe. I need the studio. I'm going to move here.
And then he didn't even go to Miami.
He kept it.
Yeah.
You're not MAGA. You're a shill. You're just trying to take advantage of people that mean good. I will always do what's right and what I believe is right. And, sometimes that you do have to call out our own, because the left doesn't. The left eats itself. They get mad at each other, but they never call out their own if it's helping their cause. And
that's true.
I can't look past that. There's different, So
I completely agree, and I think I'm of the same opinion. I think we have a ton of grifters in the community that are only here to rip off boomers who, unfortunately, in my opinion, like they, especially the old folks that are using Twitter, they don't really understand. It just, they're easy to rip off for these people, and frankly, it
I
really
think they want
bugs
to
me.
be Twitter famous. I think they want to be Twitter famous. And I don't know how many times people are like, hey, let's do this. We'll get a lot of hits. We'll just, I'm like,
Yeah,
no, bro. Look, I troll people. It's my hobby. I believe in the cause. I want to make America great. That's it. Like, if I wanted to be famous, I would have sold my soul out a long time ago in Hollywood. I would.
yeah,
I definitely wouldn't be a vocal conservative. So obviously I'm not in it for fame. I do it for fun. And if I get
yeah.
just enough notoriety to get to a cool party and meet people I've been talking to, I'm happy. I'm a pretty simple person. I'm a pretty fair person, I think, but I do tell it like it is. And it does create enemies. And if I'm a person not afraid to call you out, I'd be afraid of me too.
Yeah, absolutely. I can absolutely agree there. So let's segue into their points on like free speech. You did mention that one big point that the Groypers and their America First guys, so like Nick Fuentes and things like that, when the biggest point that kind of stuck out for me was the fact that TPUSA and like I guess what they would call establishment conservatives were very willing to engage with the left, right? Take on leftists, dumb college kids, whatever. But as soon as a right winger or somebody who's on the harder right spectrum, who is like anti-immigration, for instance, confronts them on some, frankly, very real issues. I think the HB1 visas, where people are able to come here and work for tech companies, and basically it takes away from our own STEM graduates. People from India and China are coming here and they're taking positions at Amazon and Microsoft. And I think our STEM graduates here in the States should get those jobs. So they do make some valid points, but it seemed like Charlie Kirk and other TPUSA people were unwilling to confront them, or at the very least debate them. What do you think about that point about free speech and about the establishment rights unwillingness to confront these people?
What makes them the establishment right? I want to know that. Like, I don't even think they like me either. You know what I mean? What made them what
I don't
conservatives
think they
are?
like me either. So
I can tell you Charlie Kirk don't like me, and I'll tell you right now, Charlie Kirk, you owe me an apology. When I called out Bill Pulte for ripping off conservatives, he messaged me and he said, hey, you need to back off. He gives a lot of money to the GOP. I'm like, he gives a lot of money to you, Charlie. We know this. You're a
yeah,
sellout. And I'm sorry. I don't care if he hates me and he does whatever, but that's the truth. And all the people that took money from him, and they know who they are.
yeah,
So that group doesn't like me either. I don't think conservatives are supposed to fit in boxes. We're all supposed to be helping America, and we all do it differently.
yeah.
If you look at us, people have different approaches. Some people are funny. Some people sing, some write songs. Everyone's kind of got their shtick, and we're all on the same point. And the minute you say, well, I need to do this, or I'm not a real conservative, you can get the hell out of here. You're being a
Purity
leftist.
testing.
You're
Yeah,
basically doing what they are. I don't have to agree with everyone all the time in their opinions. That's impossible. And that's
yeah.
something, what makes them, the model for conservatism? I say no. Like I said, I'm still owed an apology, but and I was right about Bill Pulte. You could read all my articles about it. The fake prizes, the prizes he said he'd give out that he never gave out. I mean, that's a huge legal issue.
Yeah,
So, I think maybe they're a little too uptight, and then I think a lot of people are afraid to give the gropers to hear them out because, when you look at what the left does, they're looking for those specific opinions, and they're going to use it against us. So if you go
very
too
true.
crazy one way, they're going to think, oh, you all think like this. You all do that. They don't understand the rainbow that we ourselves have,
Yeah.
a right to
It's a
spectrum.
spectrum. Yeah.
Absolutely,
It's a
absolutely.
spectrum, but not like gender.
Do you remember when androgyny was sexy? Like David Bowie, Annie Lennox. Now everyone's just trying to look like Pat from Saturday Night Live. The
it's
androgyny fuckable contest. I don't get it.
it's insane what's going on. The biggest problem, like a big problem for me, is that it's literally called transphobic to criticize the fact that there are 2 million genders and anybody can pretend to be a dolphin whale or something. Like
Oh, and
I
I
don't
get a ban
understand.
on Twitter for it. So
Yeah, and that really pisses me off, and that's what we're going to go into later on when we talk into conservative censorship. We're definitely going to touch on that topic. But what do you think about what happened with Kathy Zhu? I don't know if were you involved with that at all, and if you were,
huge
what
fat.
happened?
Like I don't like Kathy. I thought she was kind of a grifter.
Yep.
I thought the whole thing with that pageant thing, she was told not to post anything political.
Yeah.
She did, and then she's like, oh, it's because I'm a Trump. No, whatever. So when I was being slandered by another grifter, I reached out to her, and I wasn't even like, stick up for me, do something. Like, what did he do to you, so I can kind of get a gist of what I'm dealing with? Oh, I don't deal with drama. I can't help you. Okay. And I'm like, whatever, still doing things, still seeing her stuff here and there. And then she wrote me, and we had obviously an issue with Cassandra. And she's like, well, let's take her on together. I'm like, woman, piss off. Like, you didn't do anything to me. Why would I do it for you? And I don't work like that. You're not my friend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so she sends me a bunch of Cassandra's nudes. Oh, we should post these. No, bro, I'm not going to do that.
That's
and
technically revenge
she let
porn.
herself get baited. And then Cassandra reported it as child porn. She looks as old as I do in those pictures.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I haven't seen the pictures. I haven't seen the pictures, so I can't comment on them. But I do know that I think Cassandra's in her 30s. And from what I've heard, I don't know this for sure, but from what I do hear that a lot of women will report pictures like that as quote unquote child porn, even if it's not, just to get them taken down. But I mean, it's a very complicated issue. So is there some kind of issue between Cassandra and you, or
I didn't think there'd be. Obviously, she's kind of Team Groper, and I feel like she was there that night, and I heard she was behind him, egging him on. And then when you see her tweet, she's like, well, I was right behind. Yeah, I bet you were. So I kind of put that together. And then she's the only one mad. She's the one that's upset, and she's getting ratioed on her own post. And people are like, this guy instigated a fight. Even if you don't believe that he touched me first, which I felt, he still instigated a fight 2 days in a row and then called the cops. I mean, he was laughing in the video. It wasn't even a big issue. And she got upset. It didn't go the way she wanted. And I think she's very upset. And I blocked her, but woman. And then like people are sending me stuff. She was like, what, Antifa? She hated cops. She's doing all this stuff. I'm like, you ever think maybe she's just controlled opposition at this point? Like, I just don't like the grifters in the movement. So many grifters. They want that Twitter fame, and it's a lot easier to do it as a conservative because it's rarer than it is for the left. And I think that's all they care about sometimes. And we really got to purge them. We need to stop being like, look, I know what you are. Get over there. No, I'm not going to take a picture with you. No, I'm not going to have you on the show. No, I'm not going to give you a voice because I don't think you deserve it. And I don't think you're in it for heart. I just don't think they're in it for the right reasons.
I think something that really bugs me is there's a lot of girls on the right, and this isn't so. Obviously, there's a lot of women who do great content on the right, but there are some girls. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about, and I don't.
I'm like, okay.
No, it's not about you. It's about this girl that so it doesn't even matter that she was like an ex-cam girl and did all this other shit, but it's like some of the things that she says in public on debates, even with like Democrats, like, oh, I don't care about the wall. I don't care about immigration. Well, clearly you're not a fucking conservative then. Like, you're clearly doing this for Twitter fame. And I understand because we don't have as many women on the right. Women, mostly as not as a hard rule, but they typically vote progressive. So it's harder to find, that hot girl on the right to put on the MAGA hat. So it's a lot easier.
Just say it. It's a sausage fest on the right sometimes.
It is. It is.
But women are better. When we do have women, I feel like, woo. I feel like
they do look a lot better, though. They're not the blue-haired crazy feminists. But yeah, no, and that girl in particular really, really rubs me the wrong way. But it is what it is. Let me ask you this. How has it been being a Hollywood actress when the left has pretty much taken over the entertainment industry and Hollywood especially?
They are definitely in positions of power for everything important. Studio films, every major channel on TV. But there's still outlets for people like me. I just did a pro-life movie. It'll be out this spring.
Yeah.
It's got John Boyd. It's got a lot of good names in it. And it's interesting to see how successful, like when you see Unplanned and how successful, I mean, not a big studio film, and it still was like number 2, number 4. Like, to do that, it is a great FU to Hollywood, and Hollywood's flopping. I mean, everything's a reboot, a sequel. Like, stop taking my childhood movies and ruining them. Female Ghostbusters, go fuck yourself. No one wants to watch it. It's pandering.
And then they blame men.
Failing, and they have no idea why. I'm like, we don't want your woke bullshit. Leave your tiny town with your Jim Carrey and your Jane Fonda posters and actually visit America, because they fucking hate those people. But they're rewarded. They have their own shows, don't they? They're just constantly rewarding each other in the back, saying how amazing they are. It's basically the Oscars all the time in Hollywood. But there are conservatives. Obviously, you got cast, you got crew. There's a lot of people that are like us. They just can't say anything. Because I've dealt with that. I've seen it. I've had some nasty. I've had one person write letters to people I was going to work with, tell them I was a Nazi.
Jesus
Why?
Christ.
Like, how? How am I a Zionist shill and a Nazi? Like, you guys gotta pick one. You really gotta pick one at this point. It's just, and because I run the page, I do get a lot of people that come up to me and like, thank you for running the page. I follow
Yep.
you, but I can't retweet anything. I can't comment, and it's like, how sad. What bullies? How disgusting are they that they have to have their way or no way? I mean, you
Yeah.
look right now, everyone's like, well, we got to do this candidate when that candidate drops out. Well, this candidate. Well, what are you voting on? Because you're clearly not voting on issues. You're not voting on anything that's important to you. You're not voting on what's going to make this country better. You just don't want Trump to win.
Yep.
And it's kind of going to be a big too fucking bad in 2020. And I know they're going to cheat. I don't. And I'm hoping. There's just no way they can cheat this much. They've done so much damage in 4 years. And their platform is crap.
Yeah. Well, people don't trust them because it's not just the identity politics, but it's also the fact that Antifa is allowed to run around. And I don't know what your feelings are in groups like the Proud Boys and Patriot Prayer, but I see them on a regular basis here in Seattle and Portland. And the right is whatever factional affiliation you have on the right, because in Seattle and Portland, there's not that many conservatives or any vocal ones. We all kind of mix together. But I do see the difference in how the media treats groups like the Proud Boys versus Antifa, and it is utterly ridiculous. I mean, the bias. I mean, it's clear as day, and they call themselves journalists. And me and my friend Doug, we actually decided, we're like, dude, we're just gonna start calling them bloggers from now on because they're not journalists. It's utterly ridiculous.
I went to college. Like, I had to write history papers. I had to use primary sources. I couldn't use inflammatory language.
Mm-hmm.
I could read an article and be like, ooh, like, I see fallacy. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. Today, you read the headline. Nothing is like it inside. It's fun. It's inflammatory. And I'm like, this is not an article. And this isn't like a college student. These are the Washington Post.
Yep.
It's the New York Times. I'm like, you are supposed to be journalists. And this is hot garbage. I could have wrote something better in 12th grade. I don't understand. And I'm kind of upset about it. And I think here's the thing. They're not trying to change the minds of people like me and you. We're not going to change our minds. We're pretty educated people. We know we can't have open borders. Look at Europe. It's on fire. Yep. We know we can't give illegals health care. Our VA system's a joke. How are you going to handle that? Like, we're realists. You know what I mean? And, oh, God. I can't remember my point. I just got so upset.
No, it's utterly insane. Okay, I gave a speech at to a college Republicans meeting, and there were high schoolers there that came to listen to us speak. There were like 14-year-old kids there, and an Antifa member tried to chain the doors closed on us. We don't know if there was some other intention there. We don't know if he wanted to light the room on fire.
You were there.
Yeah. That was me. I was the speaker there, and it was just so utterly ridiculous because the student paper there did a story on it, and their entire narrative was how a bunch of large white men in MAGA hats interrupted a queer student picnic. No, I'm not kidding. That was the entire narrative of the article, and I'm just like, dude, this is such utter bullshit. Like, I don't care if you're a liberal or a leftist, but this is such utter bullshit. It's just, and that's the narrative that gets pushed in Portland and Seattle. And people ask me, they're like, well, when Antifa attacks you, why don't you fight back? Because the headline tomorrow is going to say alt-right Nazi beat up leftist who did nothing wrong. Like, come on, dude. Like, it's just
half a video and you know it.
Yeah, and it's utterly ridiculous. As a matter of fact, it actually happened. We went to interview some people that were marching for, I don't know if you know what's going on with the Major League Soccer stuff, but they're not allowed to fly political symbols, or they weren't. And people wanted to fly Antifa flags, and there was a large issue with that. But basically, they had Black Bloc members marching with these Seattle Sounders supporters, and Drew Carey from Jeopardy was supporting these Antifa members. And we went there to interview people, and the whole narrative from these quote-unquote journalists was white nationalists invade Seattle Sounders Pride Parade. And there's my co-host Dion, who's black. He's standing in the picture. There's a black guy standing in the picture, and the caption is white nationalist. And I'm like, so a black dude is a white nationalist now? What are you guys fucking talking about? It's fucking insane. Have you heard of that movie, The Hunt, that's coming out?
I thought they weren't going to put that out.
They're putting it out now. It's actually good. I don't know when it's coming out.
I was very upset. I was very upset that came out, and the timing was awful.
Yeah.
But I guess at the end of the story, is actually the libs in it that look awful.
But yeah, that's what I was going to say.
But it's an awful idea to give people at this. Is it
Yeah.
their right to do it? Can they do it? Yeah. Is it socially responsible? Not
Probably
right
not.
now. Maybe 10
Yeah.
years from now, you could do something like this. Right now, you're going to give some maniac an idea.
Yeah.
But here's like also freedom. It's just a bad idea.
Yeah.
Personally.
But something that people don't know is that the hunt actually paints conservatives in a better light. The libs are the elites with all the money that are like hunting them, and the conservatives are the good guys, which I thought was interesting. Let me ask you, tell us about the censorship that you've experienced personally. I know you've been talking about that in your articles recently, so I wanted to give you a chance to talk about that on the show.
I've been hit with another restriction. I want to say banned about 9 times on Facebook. I've had 2 hits on Twitter. They, I get a ban once. I mean, I've got lots of bans for no reason. Their newest thing. It's always something new. Like I had to learn, I can't critique Islamic terrorism. If the word
bullshit.
Islam is any sentence that's negative, even if you're talking about an incident that just happened and you're being just describing it, you will get hit for that. You cannot do the same with Antifa. I got hit for criticizing Antifa. I got hit for writing just saying. I got hit for posting threats a liberal sent me. I'm just going through my head here. Trying to remember. So the newest thing is fake news. Now we saw that they were kind of like, oh, this is fake news. And we were laughing. Like, yeah, of course. You guys think everything that you don't like is fake news. It's Snopes. Yeah. And we know this is not like, oh, conspiracy. We know Snopes is manipulative. Yeah. I see how they word it. You'll get something true, add something that no one's talking about and be like, mostly false. What do you think, we're stupid? No one even talked about that one little detail. You added it so you can say that part of it was false. It's manipulative. And I saw answers as soon as Hillary started running. I saw answers changing. I know that they had put money into it, and things that I had looked up before were different. And man, my kingdom to go back and look at that stuff. But that happened. So we know Snopes is bullshit. So we were laughing because we were like, oh, I posted it, they're saying it's fake. And it's real. They're punishing people now. They threatened to they hit me with a restriction. I was reaching 12 million people. Now I've reached 1 million. And they're threatening that if I publish more fake news, that they'll unpublish the whole page. 200,000 people. And then I'm like asking my followers, you guys getting hit with this too? They're sending me in. They're getting hit. And I don't know if you read the article. One was an inspirational poem.
I did. I saw that.
Poems. Like, oh, the leader of the pack. And it was an inspirational, story. And
but drag queens and kids are okay.
What the hell? How is that? You know what I mean? And then the whole thing, someone posted, Bernie wants to give illegal aliens health care and are done. That was fake news. He's on video raising his hand with all the others that he wanted to do it. And they lost their page over that. They don't care if it's right or wrong. It wasn't even about playing by the rules. I've been talking in sarcasm, writing no comment, because anything I say can be used against me now in a court of Facebook. And now I'm getting hit for just the articles. They don't like the topic. You know what I mean? And to restrict me so that no one sees my stuff. There were people that tried to find me at CPAC. My name won't even come up on Facebook for a lot of these people. Jesus. Unless we already had mutual friends or something. That's how deep this is. And if it's hitting me, and I'm not even, and look at Sean Hannity, they hit him too. Oh, he's fake news. Grow up. Like, who do you get to decide what is real or fake? Just because you have an independent third factor to your site, that's the most liberal thing I've ever seen. And my problem is the politicians don't care. How many times have we cried to Trump?
I know. He doesn't do anything. Yeah,
do
it's bullshit.
Something. Help us. We're suffocating. How can we talk to each other? How can we network? How can we have a voice? And that's what I was trying to get. They're not trying to change the opinions of people like me and you. That's not going to change. They're trying to change the opinion. They're trying to form the opinions of people that aren't into politics, that just see headlines, that see things in their Twitter feed. And if they see this, they believe those things and they vote that way.
Yep.
How is that not election manipulation? They're mad about
and that's the majority of people. That's the majority of people. The majority of people aren't educated about the issues, and it really bugs me. But something you brought up is something that I think is so important. So just actually yesterday, we did a social experiment where we wrote on a big sign, "It's okay to be Christian and it's okay to be Muslim." And guess which side people had a problem with? I think you can probably figure that one out. But something that really bugs me, being Muslim myself, is the fact that we are not allowed to, especially if you are white or Christian or male, you're not allowed to criticize certain factions or certain groups, even if it necessitates criticism. And with Islam, especially with what's going on in the Middle East, What's going on in Greece? I just posted a giant Twitter thread about what Erdogan is sending his migrants. It's a political chess move that he's using, and with Islamic terrorism, with ISIS, with what's going on in Middle Eastern countries, throwing gays off roofs and stoning women for being raped. I mean, it's ridiculous that we cannot criticize these things because it is termed as Islamophobic. But God forbid you say that children shouldn't learn about drag queens when they're 5 years old. I just don't understand that the double standard. And frankly, as a Muslim myself, I actually see it making things worse for Muslims because people are going to feel like, hey, we can't criticize them, so they're going to start getting angry. What the left doesn't understand is they're actually building anti-Islamic sentiment by censoring people. If people can't speak, then they feel like they're being censored, and that actually builds up more resentment. And they're also building more far-right nationalist support because they are censoring these people. They are pushing people in that direction.
They're creating racism and resent when
they're creating their very worst enemy that they're so terrified of. And it's the same thing that actually happened in the 1930s before the Nazis rose to power. They had communist militias running around in the streets, beating the shit out of people. And if I remember correctly, there was a Nazi soldier who was killed, and it built middle-class support for the rise of fascism. And that is what we see, again, with Antifa running around in the streets. It's building... I see people who are being not converted into fascists, but they are getting angrier and angrier, and they're starting to say things like, well, you know what? Maybe I don't mind so much if that Antifa guy gets hit by a car. You know what? It's okay. Maybe he shouldn't stand in the road. But that's the kind of thing people were saying, where before it was like, oh, well, maybe you shouldn't drive into people. But it's something that they don't understand. Have you ever personally had to deal with Antifa yourself?
No. Well,
You're
no,
lucky.
I only ever ran into them once. I did a demand free speech rally in San Francisco. I know the bastion of it. And we were kind of nervous, you know what I mean? And I've never seen so many cops. I've never seen like real Antifa. And we're all, of course, they're always wondering what they're going to do and stuff. And part of my speech, I'm doing my thing, and I'm like, hey, I'm not up here just for my rights of free speech. I'm actually up here for everyone. I go, I'm never screaming with megaphones. I'm like, including the assholes across the street. And they're like, because that's the whole thing. Like, what can you say that? You're gonna scream over the fact that I just said you have a right to say that? Like, you have to educate people. Screaming at people that this is how you should think changes zero minds. Calling people baby killers doesn't make them against abortion. You have to educate people. And that's why they don't want us to have a voice. That's why we're not allowed to criticize the things that are negative that the left is trying to push to destroy America so that they can sweep in and become the new elites. And think about it. If we were allowed to healthily critique Islam, how much better would the world be? You know what I mean? Why can't we be like, you know what? Okay, you do this. These are, but how about the Sharia law? Why can't we address how completely against human rights that entire thing is?
Yeah, and when you can't criticize something, you can't ask questions. You can't ask questions. So how are people supposed to understand and talk about these issues if they can't even bring them up? It's the same thing I mentioned with trans people. How can I critique the gender bill for the bathroom law or self-identification laws if everything I bring up is suddenly transphobic? Where you can't call someone an illegal immigrant and you can't say illegal immigrant.
Oh, you can't say illegals. You can't say an illegal immigrant is a criminal on Facebook. You will get a hit. Why?
Yeah, they're changing the very language. They're changing the very language that we use as quote unquote hate speech. So you can't defend your political opinions anymore, right? Now you have to say undocumented. And if you think about it, it's actually a soft sell to people who are apolitical or aren't necessarily super educated, because suddenly undocumented doesn't sound as bad as illegal immigrant. And if you're not allowed to say illegal immigrant, suddenly people are saying, oh, well, that doesn't sound so bad. They just don't have any papers. No, the real issue is that they're illegal immigrants, and that's an objective legal term, which you guys are pretending is not a legal term. It's insane. One thing that I would actually disagree with you on is the free speech aspect. So I am, in fact, also a big advocate for freedom of speech. However, one of my biggest problems with Antifa is, and not just them, but the leftists and the liberals that support them, what they do is they dox people and they get their home addresses, their families, and all like that.
Free speech.
But when they're smearing people and calling them white supremacists and Nazis and fascists, the biggest problem is people like me. I maybe only be a middle-sized YouTuber, but I have a big enough platform where if something happens to me, people will know, and people won't make a small fuss, but they'll make a fuss. But to the right wing, to regular, college Republicans, to regular conservatives that are working at, I don't know, Boeing or something like that, it's a big problem because when they dox you, what comes up in the Google results, right? Somebody searches, I don't know, Zachary Smith. Well, that's kind of a common name, but Zachary Smith, Seattle Boeing.
But free speech doesn't cover illegal activity. It doesn't cover harassment. You can say shit. You can't say shit 500 times a day. You know what I mean? You can't lie on someone.
Yeah.
You can say, hey, I don't like that about him. I think this, this, that. You cannot say, well, he is a Nazi white supremacist. I know this to be true, and I'm going to tell his boss. That is illegal. I've had that happen to me.
Yeah.
There are things that are illegal. People think, oh, free speech. Not everything's covered for a good reason.
It falls under defamation. It does.
You can't say, you can say, oh, I hate him. I wish for a meteor. That's not a threat. A credible threat is, I know where you live. You're not going to wake up tomorrow night. That's a credible threat. That's illegal. Yeah. Free speech doesn't cover everything. And I'm willing to fight for everything up until the part where it infringes on other people's rights, as I always do. Because then you start infringing. You can say whatever you want. The minute it starts my life and you're, in my mailbox, whatever you're doing, that's an illegal activity. Posting personal information, harassment, all that stuff. And I don't know why the right doesn't sue more often. I really don't.
Because defamation cases are incredibly hard to win.
Why not make it easier?
And I absolutely agree with that, because I'm not worried about so Brett Kavanaugh or Donald Trump or even someone like Sean, anybody that has some power and influence and money, they can back themselves up, right? But for a college Republican, they don't have the power to do that, right? Yeah. If you're being smeared by Antifa, like I've seen people get doxxed and they lose everything, right? And they're doing it all from behind anonymous accounts. And my biggest problem is that Twitter will not take down these posts. Facebook will not take down these posts. I've reported them a million times. They don't take them down, and they go up in the Google search results. And so when somebody Googles your name, all this shit comes up, and it's like, fuck, dude, like that's, and they're ruining people's lives. And what we talked about earlier, where Trump is not doing anything about the social media censorship. Another thing that he needs to work on is the fact that these young right-wing activists and young conservative activists are being doxxed and their lives are being ruined, but nobody is helping them. Nobody is speaking for them. And I mean, why would anybody join up and be a right-wing activist if your life is just going to get ruined because of it, right? How are we going to recruit people into the movement if their lives are going to be ruined? What do I tell them? It's just, nobody's doing anything about it.
Nobody's doing anything about it, because everyone in a point of power or position of power to do something is manipulating the situation. Look at Google. You saw my own thing. When I looked up, I'm like, I know they raised their hands. I saw the video. So I Google, okay, I want to Google Democrats raise hands for illegal healthcare. The first thing to come up, it says it's mostly false.
Snopes.
We know it's not.
Yeah. And
these are the same fact checkers. So Google is in on it. Facebook is using this fake site. Google, they're in on it together. Twitter is started. Now they have that new thing. Oh, this is changing an election. I can report it for this. They're in on it together, which is why it is so hard to fight.
Yeah.
What do we do? And other than, there's nothing we can do. They created these terms of service, and I believe as a private company, they are allowed to do whatever they want. Yeah. But they have to apply the rules and terms of service evenly. Otherwise, it is discrimination to a group of people.
And not only that, but there's the platform versus publisher argument. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all these big social media companies, they actually operate under certain protections because they are quote unquote platforms. But if they are applying their TOS discriminatorily to different groups, then they would be acting as publishers and they would lose those protections. So suddenly they become liable for everything that's written on their platforms. So it would actually destroy these social media companies if it were to be proven in a court of law. I mean, you could actually take down their protections, which would be pretty amazing in my opinion. But and then my last question for you, what is your opinion on modern feminism?
Feminism?
Yeah, modern feminism, like third wave.
I feel equal. Obviously, I have equal rights. I don't have physical equal rights, which is why I think men should stay the hell out of women's sports. I mean,
Yeah.
why do mediocre athletic men get to destroy competitive women's sports? Because you want to be woke? It's
Yeah.
about to get kicked off YouTube. But you know what I'm about to say. You are physically, genetically a man. You shouldn't be punching a woman in the face in an MMA fight or
Yep.
anything, wrestling them. It's
He
not
broke her
right.
skull. He broke her skull when he did that.
It's not right.
Sorry, she did that. She.
So you're gonna get in trouble. But I'm not a feminist. I feel equal. And I can't imagine what it would be like to wake up every day with a chip on my shoulder about there's a wage gap. Go work an oil rig. You're a kindergarten teacher. You work part-time. You do not get the same pay as someone that puts their lives on the line. You shouldn't get the same pay as someone working on the poles doing electricity. You shouldn't. And they're so out of touch. They're so entitled. And because the left does this so much, and it's part of feminism. Be a victim. That's right. You didn't do anything wrong. Your life sucks because of everyone else. What an awful way to get through life. I'm a conservative. And we always say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You know, if you don't have something, work for it. What good does bitching about a imaginary problem? What does that ever help? What does that do? And so I don't like feminism because they don't want equality. They want preferential treatment. They do not want equality. Equality is equality. They want preferential treatment. They want the perks. But you know, it's just stupid. I hope no one ever gives me a job just because I'm a woman, you know?
Yeah. It's absolutely insane. They want special privileges and not equal responsibility. I think the draft is a good example. There is no actual wage gap.
But you have to pay child support. That makes sense.
Right.
That's
right.
fair.
Family court laws. And then also this believe women aspect on social media courts of opinion, especially with like the Kavanaugh.
I believe men on a general occasion. You know what I mean?
And it actually made it so actual rape victims are taken less seriously. They did a poll, so actual rape victims are taken far less seriously now than before the Me Too movement. And I'm pretty sure the point of the movement was to draw awareness to this aspect and maybe make it so they're taken more seriously. So it's just, it's completely, and it makes no sense. I mean, why would you believe somebody just because of what's between their legs? Like, that makes no sense logically whatsoever.
I don't know if they believe this stuff, or are they just like creating propaganda? Because it just doesn't make sense. And I don't know, you can only have so many mindless people to believe it. But what I think is funny is they did the whole Me Too movie because they wanted Kavanaugh? They wanted Donald Trump. And then it turns out they were raping each other for big movie roles for like decades. Please teach me more about your precious morality, Hollywood.
Well, they wanted an asterisk next to his name. I don't know if you know this, but Deborah Katz, Christine Ford's lawyer, actually said at a feminist lawyers conference that she wanted an asterisk next to Kavanaugh's name when he overturned Roe v. Wade. So it was very clear that it was about abortion rights, not about Kavanaugh raping anyone. So it's absolutely utter bullshit that they even made this, and they're ruining lives. I mean, there are that lists that come out about men that misbehave in like the entertainment industry or whatever, and they're like anonymous Google documents that anyone could add a name to. But the problem is all these woke feminists, they just believe it. They just take it as fact, and it frankly ruins people's lives, because how are you supposed to disprove that?
They're paying these women. Those women got paid to accuse Trump. How is that legal?
Yeah.
How is that legal? One woman got her mortgage paid off. That should be beyond illegal. If you want to come forward and you want to say something, you say it. You don't get money just to say it. Maybe you win. Maybe you were right. But you do not get to get paid to ruin someone's life for the cameras. And man, we need to change a lot of things in this country, because that's one of the most evil things you can do.
Yeah. Obviously rape is bad. I can't say what we can
accusing someone of rape when they didn't do it is also bad.
Yeah. It ruins people's lives. People do serious time, or they get their lives ruined. It's these courts of public opinion done on social media where you can't disprove it. It's the same thing we talked about with the smear campaigns. How are you supposed to disprove somebody deciding that you're an objective white supremacist, even if you hadn't said anything, just because you believe you have a certain set of values, or I mean, you're a conservative or something? That makes no sense. But yeah, it's just insane to me.
I think the biggest way to fight that is you ask them why, because they can never do that. I'm like,
that's true.
Racist, you're racist. Why? Because the border wall. All countries have border walls. What else do you have?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they don't have it. And then they'll add the ad hominem tax, and you've won. You're done the best you could. You're either gonna change your mind or not, but you definitely did not get into it. And I know it seems insane. I think there's more of us than people think.
There is.
It'll be real interesting to see how November turns out.
I meet conservative people, like young people all the time, where they come up and they're like, dude, I watch your channel all the time. I love your videos. Like, I can't say anything because I'll get fired from my job. You know, my parents will disown me. Can you imagine disowning a child or your parents because of their political beliefs? Like, my parents are libs, right? And I don't hold that against them. We debate all the time, right? My parents are, you know, they are, I think I think they're voting Joe Biden, or they're hoping Joe Biden wins, but we debate things, and you know, it's okay. Like, it doesn't make them love me any less. I can't imagine disowning a child because of the way they believe politically. Like, that's just, like, that's where we're at in America, and I don't know how to fix this. And that's kind of why I started doing this. Like, I started getting into this so I could, you know, not only change hearts and minds, but make people laugh. You know, when I go out there and, you know, we do the reparations prank, and we ask people for money because we're with Black Lives Matter, and it's just, or we ask people about being transracial. You know, if I identify as a African American astronaut. I don't know, man. But when we ask people these things, it gets a little bit of a laugh from them, and they're like, okay, you know, it does seem a little bit strange. Let me think about this. All we're trying to do is open people's minds, and people are trying to call me a white supremacist for that? It makes no sense. But
I think the best we can do is obviously changing our minds. You know, it's the people in the middle. It's the people in the middle we're really after. And if they cut our voices off on social media, we won't be able to talk to them. And that's my biggest fear, because right now the left is doing an amazing job of creating Trump supporters.
Yeah,
they really Trump is even campaigning. I don't know why
he doesn't have to
at all. The left is doing a wonderful job. You look at Scott Wiener. Do you see me own him on Twitter?
I haven't. I'll have to go check that out.
It's pretty good. So I said he's the guy that knocked down giving someone AIDS maliciously on purpose down to a misdemeanor, like 3 months.
Oh, that's right.
He's the one that he doesn't believe that LGBT child molesters should register as sex offenders because it gives them a stigma. You stigma up your fucking ass. And then now he wants it to give like crackheads and meth heads money to stay clean.
Oh my God. Is he the one behind the meth addict bill? Are you shitting me? That's the guy?
So I do this whole thing and I said what I just said to you. He finds me. I actually wasn't trolling him. He finds me. He's like, oh, you think people with HIV should go to jail and gay people should be locked up because I'm like, what?
That's not what I said.
Like, oh, and he said, you think people on meth should just die? I'm like, bro, I said none of that stuff. And I broke it down. And I think last I looked, he had 777 negative comments. That was like 2 days ago. He got wrecked. He got wrecked. And that's the thing. It wasn't just me. Even a normal human being sees this shit and goes, are you kidding me? This is the dumbest shit ever. So yes, the left is creating Trump supporters, and I hope that works too, since we'll all be silenced and gagged like this time next month. So you know, it's a crazy world.
I'll be honest.
My life about this segment.
Honestly, Mindy, I think we'll be okay. When people see Antifa beating up disabled people in wheelchairs and elderly folks, when they see this kind of woke cancel culture, and they see people getting their lives ruined over utterly malicious bullshit.
Newspapers? What about the people that just watch CNN? What are we doing? They're manipulating the American public while complaining we're doing it and calling us Russian bots.
Absolutely. But you can't deny that there are people that see it in real life, right? Even if they're not on Twitter, even if they're not on YouTube.
But most people are people's parents doing what we do. How many people are really, really understanding what's going on? I mean, we're into it. Obviously, they're into it. What about the people in the middle? They must see some of it, but man, we see those headlines. We know they lie. We see, like, I look at my Twitter feed. You know who I am. But every person, I'm like, oh, maybe you're interested in what Rosie O'Donnell says. How about Kathy Griffin? How about Alyssa Milano? And all libs. I'm like, I don't follow any of these people. Why are you showing them? Oh,
why am I getting this in my recommended?
Why am I getting this stuff?
Yeah. So you're right. They are manipulating things. And actually, Jack Dorsey follows a notorious. Did you hear about the Zuby thing that happened? The rapper.
He's dude, and he got kicked off.
So that person is actually a notorious serial Antifa doxer. Like, doxes people for Antifa and has fucked up and doxed. I don't know if he was in the army or he was a Marine, but he was in the military, and this person doxed the wrong person. Like, it was like, dude, like, you could have ruined his life. Apparently it got fixed, but This is literally a notorious serial doxer that is followed online by
taking
Jack
action
Dorsey.
against these people? Why aren't we getting together and getting lawyers and being like, we need to fucking do something about this because it's ridiculous.
I couldn't agree more, but we need the funding. We need the organization to happen, right? And we need to get those people together. And it's like the various factions on the right are more interested in doing their more individualistic goals than actually banding together. That's one thing that really pisses me off is the left is very communist, right? They're very communal. They're very they take care of each other. If you see an Antifa member get arrested, there will be a bail fund up within 10-15 minutes. There will be people waiting in the courtroom. They have lawyers that actually go there for Antifa people. They take care of each other. They give them living quarters. I mean, the leftists are all
interesting how much money the party of the poor has, doesn't it?
Well, I think
almost
Mr.
like
Reagan,
they're not the party of the poor.
Mr. Reagan made a very, very good map of how things lead back to George Soros. And I know a lot of people on the left say the Soros thing is a conspiracy theory, but if you look into some of the soft donations going through the various groups that he runs, a lot of it actually does track back to Mr. Soros. So it's like we're not repeating a conspiracy theory. He really does fund a lot of left-wing terrorism. We don't know if he's doing it intentionally because it's done through so many different groups and so many different, walls and fluffs, right? They're all protecting him, right? But it's a really good map, and it shows how it leads to like these communists, BLM, refuse fascism. It's everywhere, man. And they're all very interconnected and they all assist each other. You've even seen AOC and Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and Ayanna Pressley, the squad, defending Antifa people doing their terrorism, right? So
where's our support? Where's our support in all this?
I know.
And maybe that's the problem with the conservative, whatever you want to call it. Like, where are these people when we need help? They don't help me. My help comes from my peers, from other people on Twitter, from other people that are vocal, not people that, get paid to make content for something fancy. Most of my help comes from the average conservative.
So, Mindy, the problem with conservatives and the right, and I'm a fairly new conservative within just the last couple years. I grew up as a liberal. One thing that I've noticed is we tend to be, conservatives in general tend to be more individualistic and more interested in their own goals, while leftists and libs tend to be more interested in a social goal, right? So something that affects more people. While we may have differing opinions and people may be pro-life and they want to, get rid of abortion and things like that, they are still typically more interested in their own individualistic goals, right? It's why you see so many grifters in the conservative movement. It's not necessarily that they aren't conservative, it's that they're individualistic and more hungry for, they're ambitious. They're hungry for money, power, influence. And that tends to be something we just understand more on the right because, we're capitalists, right? We understand grabbing life by the balls and making something of it, creating something. The left doesn't, right? And it's the differences are palpable, and it's unfortunate because it means that the smaller right-wing activists are not able to help themselves, while the smaller left-wing activists are able to basically take them on with the full backing of the left. But I don't want to run this interview too long. I'm actually so glad to have you here. Is there anything else that I missed? Anything else that you wanted to mention?
That sounds like a pretty full day.
Okay. So guys, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give us a like, and drop us a subscribe, support us on Patreon. Don't want to sound like an e-girl, but we got to get those donations, folks. And make sure you follow Mindy on Twitter. It's iHeartMindy, I believe, on Twitter. If you want to tell us your Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that too.
I have a hard time finding the Facebook since it's not showing up in search engines.
Oh, that's
I just tweeted yesterday a direct link that'll work. If it's looking for me will not work because I'm that terrifying.
The 110-pound blonde woman is terrifying to them.
What are you gonna do?
All right, Mindy. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and you'll see this interview. I'll post it on Twitter. I'll @ you so you see it.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, thank you so much for joining us.
Bye.
I'm an icon, man. And my girl about a 10. I should fuck her in a Benz.